Now, it's Moneywise with the Moneywise Guys on News Talk 96.1 and AM 1180 KERN.
I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey, well, I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey, said I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. And if I share with you my story, would you share your dollar with me?
Securities offered through SCF Securities Inc., a registered broker-dealer member, FINRA, SIPC. SCF Investment Advisors Inc. is an SEC registered investment advisor.
Now, here are the Moneywise Guys.
That's right. We are the Moneywise Guys. Thanks for tuning in today, folks. I will, as I generally do, welcome you back from the weekend. Hopefully you had a fun and enjoyable, safe weekend. Maybe some of you got to escape the heat. Maybe others of you, paid the price for going out in the sun. But either way, welcome back. We're excited to be here today. We have a good show planned for you. We've got a full room. There's 4 of us in here, one being the guest. First-time guest on the Moneywise program. So I'll talk about the guest here shortly. You're going to be excited to hear about what he has to say. But want to remind you that we are here for you. We're here to arm you with information and data that you can apply to your life and actually make your life better. We're not just here to talk and entertain or to get you upset or to make you happy. We're here to make your life better by giving you the information that you need. Let me talk about the guest who we have coming on the program. He's actually joining us right now, but we're not going to talk about his subject until 12:30, and that is Mr. Scott Hanson. Scott Hanson is CEO at Level 1 Financial. He's also a member of the Pro Resource Group. We had Kyle Jones on the other day talking about estate planning, and of course he's a member of the Pro Resource Group. We're a member of the Pro Resource Group, which is a group of professionals. Scott has quite a bit of experience. He's got over 20 years of experience in the real estate industry. And one of the things that we like about Scott, we as Moneywise Guys are always trying to bring you experts because there are areas of finance that's not our area of specialty. And we want to bring you people that have a lot of experience, that know what they're talking about, that are credible. And Scott Hanson certainly is one of those. So we're going to talk a little bit about interest rates, the pricing of those. And, a lot of times you think, hey, when I'm getting a mortgage, I just want the lowest price. Bada bing, bada bing, that's all you need to worry about. Well, sometimes there are some other types of strategies that you can use to get the best deal. And sometimes it's not the lowest interest rate. So we'll talk to Mr. Scott Hanson about that in a bit. Welcome back, folks. Moneywise Guys here. Thanks for tuning in. Let me just ask Mr. Scott Hanson over here. We're going to be talking to next segment. We're going to be talking about interest rates, Level 1 Financial. But I want to ask you, Scott, if you don't mind sharing something personal, but is your view of retirement that, hey, once I retire, I am done working?
Guys, I'm already retired. How do you think I came in here today with you guys? Any working guy doesn't have time to come in here and see you guys,
a radio
right?
show, right?
I mean, no, you know what? I won't ever retire. I like working too much, and I think to your point that it's more about the goal to financial independence than it is this goal to I want to sit on my couch all day or I just want to just goof off all day. I think it's more about I want to be financially independent. I don't want to have to work. I want to have the choice as to whether or not I want to go to work and see that boss I don't like or whatever. And there's something about that when people have that choice and they know they don't have to do it.
Just the choice alone makes your level of satisfaction go up.
That might as well be the goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even more so than retirement.
Yeah,
right?
That's great. Love it.
Oh, well, the world never seemed bigger.
Welcome back, folks. Moneywise Guys here. Thanks for tuning in. All right, let's move on to our guest we're very excited to have on the program. This is the first time he's joined us on the Moneywise program. Mr. Scott Hanson, you've probably seen him around town. He's the CEO of Level 1 Financial, member of the Pro Research Group. He has over 20 years experience. This time I'm going to read a little bit of the bio here because it's our first introduction, so stay with me for a little bit. He has over 20 years of experience in the real estate industry, provides his clients with the best terms and rates on the market. He's participated in the growth of the real estate industry since 1996. That's important. He's seen lots of booms and busts. He's been in a number of positions, whether it's lender, broker, investor, property management, development, construction. He's done it all, and that's why they help you find the right property over there. Scott Hanson, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
He's accomplished a lot for only
He has.
28 years old.
I know, it's unbelievable. He counts a year, a decade as a year.
Oh,
so
okay.
he's actually 280 years old. Good to have you on the
Thanks,
program.
guys.
Yeah,
Appreciate
good to have you on the program.
Thank you.
You sent us some information. Say, hey, what about this topic? You've been writing a few articles about different issues, and it looked like this would be something perfect to go over. First off, we kind of want to hear a little bit about how mortgage rates work, how the pricing works, but really what we want to focus on is once we understand kind of the basics, want to get into strategy. So let's start here with just mortgage interest rates. You hear interest rates. The Fed has come out recently and lowered interest rates.
Right.
And immediately I think people start clapping their hands and going, all right, all of our rates are coming down. Is that how it works?
Not exactly. So I have this conversation with clients nearly every day, and that's why I know it's a topic that people wonder about, and there's a lot of misunderstandings about it.
Yeah.
So even with your guys' discussion recently about the inverted yield curve, what causes that? It's market forces that cause that. Nobody sets that yield curve inverted or right
Not
way
like
up
the Fed
or
woke
whatever.
up and said, we're going to invert the yield curve.
Invert that baby today.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't happen that way. So market forces move that interest rates around. The bond market gets moved around by market forces like so many things. Mortgage rates are no different. They move around based on market forces. And so people hear the Fed, like they just did, lower the Fed funds rate a 0.25%. And so people are calling me saying, hey, that means that my mortgage rate that I just locked, or I was thinking about locking, is now going to be a 0.25% lower. And that's just not the way that it works. They all work together, and
because they are related. I mean, if you hear the Fed, let's say the Fed over 2 years lowers the Fed funds rate, you are likely going to see mortgage rates come down.
It's like they're all riding the same wave, right?
Gotcha.
So they're all kind of on the same wave, and they're all kind of moving together generally, but not in lockstep. And a lot of times the mortgage rates will actually preempt or forecast
because of
Fed funds rate,
market
right?
forces.
So in June, for example, rates got really good before the Fed funds announcement. And on the day of the Fed funds announcement that they were lowering interest rates, the mortgage rates had already done their thing for the previous 4 or 5 weeks. And it was kind of an anticipation that was likely to come. So with this kind of so there's another Fed funds meeting coming up in September, and I know the anticipation may be that mortgage rates will be affected. They will be affected, but like I say, maybe not in lockstep.
That's important to know, again, because there's so much talk about the Fed and interest rates. It's important to understand that distinction there. Another common, I think, misconception is, well, let's say, for example, I see an ad, and it says, 30-year fixed, and they give some crazy rate. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. What their rates are way better than everybody else's rates.
Isn't that amazing?
Then you look and you go, oh, wait a second, there's some other factors going on that's impacting that. Let's talk about that. And this is important, folks, because once you understand this concept, then we can get into the strategy portion.
Yeah, there's a lot to know there, and that's real important. So a question I get all the time, and this is when I sort of know that this person asking this question really does not have an idea about how the mortgage industry and rates work, is when they say, what is today's interest rate? And that is a question that, don't feel bad if you're out there asking that question, but I think after today's discussion, you'll kind of learn why that question doesn't really have an actual answer. So FICO score, loan-to-value ratio, whether or not it's owner-occupied or an investment property, the loan type, there's many, many factors that go into your interest rate. So what is today's interest rate? Well, it's first of all, what are all those things? Are we buying an investment property? Are you buying a duplex and putting down 25% and your FICO score is 640, or is your FICO score 800 and you're putting 3% down on an FHA loan for your own personal property? These are two very, very different interest rates.
So the rate isn't something, correct me if I'm wrong, that's not set by someone arbitrarily. It is a rate that is derived by you, who you are, your history, the type of property that you're getting. That's what's determining the rate.
Yes, your profile, what you are doing, and what are you using the funds for has everything to do with what your interest rate will be.
It really comes down to risk for the lender.
It does. It's a risk-reward calculation that they're making, and in FHA and Fannie Mae guidelines, there's actually a lot of that risk-reward calculation that's made for the lender by the overseeing federally regulated bodies. So, for example, they will mandate that a investment property carry a slightly higher interest rate, and it's not even the lender's choice to make that determination. So a lot of those are sort of preset that way, and then also the lenders individually are making that risk-reward calculation. And when they do, they're saying, okay, this risk profile, we need to charge a little more for the risk that we're taking on. This risk profile is, we can have a lower interest rate. This person has an 800 FICO score, for example, so we can have a lower interest rate.
Or a 50% loan to value.
Or a 50% loan to value, or it's owner-occupied. Statistically speaking, owner-occupied loans are safer bets for lenders than investor loans.
Now, let's talk a little bit about some other things that an investor can do to impact the rate. And I'm not talking about anything that has to do with their credit score or the type of loan, but something like buying points. You're buying the rate down. How does that kind of work?
So interest rates are quoted in 0.8%, okay? So we're going to go back to, sixth grade fractions class just a little bit.
Get your calculators out.
But don't let me lose you on
Everyone
this.
turns off the radio, click.
It's pretty straightforward. Their interest rates are quoted in 0.8s, and there's an important reason why I'm bringing this up, because it comes into how they're priced and how the price moves. So let's say, for example, that you give me all your information about your FICO score and all these criteria that we've talked about, and we come up and we say, okay, your interest rate is 4 1/8, okay? That rate, okay, so we're a mortgage broker, so we can place that loan with any number of lenders, countless numbers of lenders we have that we go out to the market and we shop that rate and try to get that rate as good as it can be. So when I come back and I say, okay, the rate for the criteria that you've given me is going to be 4 1/8, let's say. Okay, that rate is the rate at par, is what I like to call it, right? Par, right? There's no cost associated with that rate.
That's just the rate based on all these factors.
So let's say today your rate is 4 1/8 at par. Now, it is up to you, and ultimately the borrower gets to make this decision. But if you would like to, if you would like to buy that rate down, say by 1/8 of a point, down to 4% even, then maybe there's a cost associated with that, say, of $1,200. Right? This is based on the rate sheet. Now, the way we get paid as a mortgage broker, we get paid by the lender for placing the loan, regardless of the interest rate that you take, regardless of the terms you take, regardless of how much money you put down or anything.
So whether you're buying the interest rate down, you're not impacted by that.
I wish, that $1,200 just goes
right
in my
to
pocket,
you.
No, it doesn't work that way. No, we get paid regardless from the lender that we're placing the loan with. So when we're advising based on this, we're advising based on the borrower's best interest. Hey, this rate makes more sense for you because, and there's some reasons why you would buy down a rate, and there's some reasons why you would take the rate at par, and there's even something you can do where you actually intentionally take a slightly higher rate and receive a credit from the lender.
Let's get right into the strategies there. So now you kind of have a baseline understanding of how this works. Let's talk about first the situation where it makes sense that someone buys down the interest rate.
Okay.
What's a scenario where someone should think about?
Well, this question, the answer to that question always comes down to how long will you be in this house, right?
Because you're paying up front to pay less over time.
Yes, it is pay now more dollars up front for paying less dollars over time by having a lower interest rate, or it is pay nothing now for the buy down for that rate and take the rate at par or above, and then pay a little more over time. And this calculation all comes down to, well, how long are you going to be there? How long are you going to own this house? And so people will say, a lot of times the answer to that question is, well, this is our forever house. We're going to be here forever. But there's another question to ask, and that is, well, how long will you have this loan? Because that's really the question, is how long will you have this loan? You might in fact be in this house for 30 years, but will you refinance
every 3
in
years.
the next few years, pull cash out, or will you pay it down sooner? There's all these other factors that come in, and statistically speaking, you won't live in the house for 30 years, even if you think you will. You'll typically live in it between 5 and 10, and statistically speaking, even if you do live in that house for a very long period of time, you won't likely have that loan. You likely will pay off that loan or do something different with that loan in the next, say, 3, 5, 8 years. So when it comes to buying down the interest rate, when it makes sense to buy it down is when you know that you're going to have this loan and this property for the long term. And when I say long term, I mean at least 10 years, 10, 12 years and beyond. And that way, by paying more down now and buying that rate down on the front end and receiving that better interest rate, you're paying less over the long term. But think about the math on that. When do you actually get paid back for that? When do you actually get the benefit for putting up more money now and paying less over time? You get the benefit of that way out in the future. You get the benefit out at 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, and beyond. So you need to have this loan that long in order to reap the benefit of putting the money out up front.
It would be, in simpler terms, maybe, down payment on a car. It may be easier because it's such a short period of time, Why do you put a big down payment on a car? It's the same price car, right? They're not necessarily giving you a cut on the price. Why pay more up front? Well, because you really want a lower payment or something. You want it to be more palatable if you lose your job or something like that. But for other people, that might not be the case. It's like, I can afford it. I'm financing at 0%, so I'm going to put as little down as possible. So you have to be strategic about it.
You do have to be strategic, and I think people get a little too caught up on the interest rate. For example, it's almost an ego thing at some point, like a bragging rights.
Yeah,
like, hey,
you know what? Reflection of the quality of human that you are.
You go to the next cocktail party, hey, I got 3.25, and the next guy's like, well, I got 287.
Yeah, and then the other person says, what are we talking about? Because if you're bragging about that. All right, we're the Moneywise Guys. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with Scott Hanson. Also, you can bring us questions as well, 842-5376. That's 842-KERN. You can shoot us a message as well. If you have a question about mortgages, interests, now's the time to do it. 842-KERN. We're the Moneywise Guys. We'll be back.
You're listening to the Moneywise Guys on News Talk 96.1 and AM 1180 KERN.
Welcome back, folks. Moneywise Guys. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. 842-5376. That's the phone number. Give us a call. Still time to talk to us or our guest, Scott Hanson. We're talking about real estate interest rates, particularly mortgage rates, and how to be strategic about that decision. It's not always about getting the lowest rate, folks. There's some other factors in there as well. So keep shooting us messages, calls. If you want to shoot us a message, include the area code 661-842-KERN. All right, here's a question that came in. It says, what's your opinion of adjustable rate mortgages? Refi now at these low rates or stay the course? That sounds like two separate questions.
I think that's two separate questions. And so I think what do I think about adjustable rate mortgages? Unfortunately, they've gotten kind of a bad rap, right?
I'll tell you a story of mine if you want.
Well, if I remember, awesome. they caused the entire real estate disaster, right? I mean, kind of tongue in cheek, but the concept of an adjustable rate mortgage, I think, is misunderstood, and it has kind of a bad rap because of the bad times that we had and the boom and the bust times.
The first time I got a mortgage, I got an adjustable rate, not knowing it was a HELOC. That's what it was. Mm-hmm. It was an adjustable rate, and later I was like, I kind of regret that. But all that happened is because rates were going down, it just got cheaper every single year.
Right. and so there's a use for those, right? And so it's an educated decision. It's an educated choice that you make when you get one, but you do understand the risks that are involved, right?
Educated decision.
Educated decision.
Exactly. So for the person asking the question, it's certainly not necessarily a bad thing that you always avoid, but get educated, make sure you're being thoughtful about that. And that moves on to kind of the next part of the question, which is, do you refi now? And I've heard people say this. I mentioned something about refi, and someone responded, why? The rates are just going to keep coming down.
Maybe that's true. And so it's hard to say, but what I will say is that if you are a interest rate foreteller and have a knack for this, then whatever your current day job is, you should probably consider, getting into the, rent some office space on Wall Street, and get into a different gig, because that you're playing a different game when you are talking about should I wait and lock or should I wait and refi. If rates are good, if they're better than you have now, or if you're in a home transaction or a piece of real estate that you're looking at buying and it's interest rates that are keeping you from doing it, I think you got to look back over the last 50 years and realize that we are at record low interest rates. We have been now for a number of years. And can they get better? Absolutely, they can get better. But are they really good right now? And is that the piece that should make you make the go no go decision? No, the interest rates are fantastic right now.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that. Certainly you want to be strategic and you have some compelling reason, but I mean they are so low. It's like going golfing. Here I am, Mr. Non-golfer, using a golfing analogy.
Oh, you're a golfer. I've seen you golf.
You call that golfing? All right. I did
You
have
were
a
fun.
club. I did have a club.
You were just fun to be around.
So let's say you were granted one mulligan. Okay. Yeah, we had one. You could take one mulligan, and you tee off, and you don't get a hole in one, so you take the mulligan because you didn't get a hole in one. Doesn't make sense, right? I mean, you're setting your target like you're not going to really get a hole in one. Likely.
Yeah.
Kind of a similar
Absolutely.
thing. Hey, you're on the green already.
Yeah.
You're on the green. You don't need to shoot again. You're already really close. It's really low. Take the shot.
That's right.
All right, there you go. For all your golf needs and questions, please come to me. All right. Hey, we just have a few more minutes. Anything we left out?
I think an important point too that's often overlooked is that sometimes it is important, or it is a good idea, strategic idea, to go ahead and intentionally take a higher interest rate in order to receive a lender credit back for taking that rate. And I'll give you a couple examples, but one that is very common is where someone has relatively low FICO score, right? They can still get a loan, but they're not getting the best rate. They're not getting the best loan. And so their idea is to go ahead and purchase a home in kind of a two-step process. They're going to buy the home. They're going to get the loan. It's not going to be the best interest rate. They're going to get in there, but then they're going to use it the next year or so and improve their credit. And they're getting some advice from us. Here's how you do it. Here's what you need to do. We can see it out there. It's in the future. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're going to refi in about a year. So then we're going through the process, and they say, well, I want the lowest interest rate possible. I want to buy down my rate, or I want the best rate. And the advice that we give is that, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. You know you're going to refinance in 1 year. So why not
buy it down now?
I mean, in fact, go higher, go a quarter point higher, get $2,000 or $3,000 from the lender to help you with your closing cost. Okay, use the year to fix your credit, and at the end of the year, that's the end game. That's when you're going to get that great takeout loan that lasts you for 30 years or however long you're going to be in the property, and then you can buy down the rate. Then you have a 740 FICO score, and add $2,000 or $3,000 to that, and buy down the rate. Yeah, you will have the 3% interest rate.
Or you take that cash back, get a 0.25% higher, get $2,800 back, go to Vegas, turn that $2,800 into $50,000, come back.
Great advice.
And put it down.
Great advice.
When are we going to Vegas, Dave? When are we going?
Don't do that.
Can we leave right after this?
Yeah, you don't want to go.
You know how to do that?
Poor.
Hey, when somebody has like an equity line of credit, and they're not using the full equity line of credit, let's say, and they want to refinance, and they still have, let's say the house is worth $400,000, they owe $300,000, which is good equity. They'll probably be a refinance, assuming they have good credit. So let's say they refinance with a cash out. That's $50,000. So they get $350,000. They have $50,000. They pay off the equity line of credit. Do you know if they lose that equity line of credit?
They will. They'll pay off that equity line of credit.
And they
now, there are cases where that equity line of credit can do what's called subordinate. So you can actually close the new financing. You can close on the new loan, and you can get permission from the new loan that you're getting and the home equity line of credit that stays on there and that it subordinates. It's not common, but it does happen.
Good stuff. Scott Hanson, Level 1 Finance. Thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Good stuff. All right, folks, we're going to take off now. Don't worry. We've got 4 more shows planned for you this week. We'll be back tomorrow. But do remember these 3 things before we go. Be smart, be safe, and always be money-wise.